November 23, 2025. Russia rejects Trump's Ukraine peace plan, insists on military victory. Washington, Moscow. In a stark rebuke to a major diplomatic initiative by U.S. President Donald Trump, Russian officials have dismissed a comprehensive 28-point peace proposal to end the war in Ukraine, declaring that nothing short of a complete Ukrainian capitulation is acceptable. The rejection, conveyed by senior Kremlin insiders and State Duma figures, underscores Moscow's unyielding stance and represents a significant setback for the Trump administration, which had aimed for a resolution by year's end. The proposed framework, which was leaked to the press and widely criticized as overly favorable to Russia, has ignited a firestorm of debate, with Ukraine vowing to resist any terms amounting to surrender and European allies rallying behind Kyiv. The proposed framework. The Trump administration unveiled the 28-point plan earlier this week, crafted with input from both U.S. and Russian negotiators, but notably excluding Ukraine from the initial drafting. The proposal includes several major concessions aligned with Moscow's long-standing demands. Key elements, as confirmed by multiple outlets, include territorial concessions. Ukraine would be required to withdraw its military forces from Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson, the four regions Russia claims to have annexed but does not fully control. The U.S. would also grant de facto recognition of Crimea as Russian territory. Military restrictions. Ukraine's armed forces would be capped at 100,000 personnel, with bans on possessing long-range missiles and developing significant offensive capabilities. Neutrality guarantees. Ukraine would adopt a constitutional amendment permanently forbidding NATO membership and enshrining its neutral status. The proposal also includes language demanding the rejection of Nazi ideologies, echoing a key narrative from Russian propaganda. Incentives for Russia. The plan outlines a phased relief of international sanctions, reintegration into global markets, and a joint investment fund using frozen Russian assets, with 50% directed to a U.S.-Russia fund. In return, the U.S. would offer Ukraine temporary 10-year security guarantees. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt defended the draft as a strong framework developed with input from both sides, emphasizing President Trump's desire to end the prolonged conflict. Secretary of State Marco Rubio echoed this sentiment on social media, calling for difficult but necessary concessions. Moscow's dismissive response. Despite the proposal's favorable terms, senior Russian officials quickly moved to reject it. Alexei Zhuravlyov, first deputy chairman of the State Duma Defense Committee, stated bluntly that only a full military victory and Ukrainian capitulation could bring a definitive end to the war, framing the U.S. plan as a provocation. An unnamed Kremlin source told The Guardian that while President Vladimir Putin found parts of the document appealing, it was deficient in providing binding guarantees against NATO expansion and firm assurances of Ukrainian neutrality. Analysts from the Institute for the Study of War 1SW suggest the rejection aligns with Russia's strategy of promoting an inevitable victory narrative to pressure Western supporters of Ukraine. Ukraine and allies vow to resist. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has walked a careful line, publicly praising U.S. diplomatic efforts while unequivocally rejecting the plan's core terms. In a national address, he appealed for unity, stating, "We will never betray Ukraine," and emphasized the need for a real and dignified peace, not surrender. A top Ukrainian security official denied ever accepting such terms, calling the proposal a fantasy that ignores military realities. The proposal has also drawn strong international backlash. European leaders from Germany, France, and the United Kingdom have united in rejecting its scandalous elements, insisting that any negotiations must start from the current front lines and preserve Ukraine's sovereign right to self-defense. The European Union labeled the plan a dangerous legitimization of aggression. A dim path forward. With a U.S. delegation set to travel to Moscow for further talks, and President Trump warning Ukraine of waning support if the plan is not accepted, the path to a breakthrough appears narrow. Russia's fixation on total victory and Ukraine's resolve to fight for its sovereignty create a fundamental deadlock, risking a prolonged conflict well into 2026. The swift rejection of a proposal so aligned with its own stated goals suggests Moscow believes time is on its side, leaving diplomatic efforts in a state of crisis.